Hello, Bio 201 students. It's Professor Humberto here. I just wanted to take some time to record my lecture and also provide you some feedback as far as the quiz is concerned. Both the lab quiz and also the lesson quiz. So as far as the lesson quiz, guys, you guys, once again, you guys did pretty good when it came down to the overall performance of the class. So keep up the good work there. As far as the lab quiz though, there were some struggles, and okay, that's okay, guys. It's only the second lab quiz that you guys have taken. So um I'm gonna go over some tips, that I would use to be able to prepare for the lab quiz. Because if you really think about it, guys, the lab quiz really mirrors, you know, your exams, okay? Because it is a timed assessment, okay? You have to make really quick decisions. You got to recall things really, really, really fast, okay? So, please okay, take that quiz when you are 1000% ready, okay? Once you have reviewed the material over and over again and you feel really confident, okay? So that's really the biggest piece there is review. You can time yourself as you are going through your note cards, um, but also making sure that you are recalling things very fast. That's also very important, okay? Um, and it's really going to set you up for, for success because, timed assessments is actually something that is probably not going to stop in your academic career. So the more you practice, the better off you're going to be. If you guys were athletes, like in high school or in college, you got you have to practice like you're ready for the game. And it's the same thing if you put in instruments or whatever you did in a competitive level, you have to you have to practice like the game. Okay. So if you practice everything timed, you're gonna be more comfortable and you'll have more success. Okay. I so here's a kind of a flow about on how like I would approach this class. Because I want you to be able to see all of this stuff over and over again so that just becomes recorded in your brain so that you can continue to you can continue to grow. So here's what I would do, like as far as this class is concerned, okay? On Monday, I would read the chapter, go through all of the things that are required for reading, okay? As you go through, okay, make sure that you are making note cards constantly, especially on the things that are on your lesson objectives, okay? Make note cards. Okay, print screen for me. Okay, that was my best friend. I print screened everything and I made note cards, okay? So kind of go through that. And at the end of at, at okay, the end of every chapter, you guys are gonna see okay, some practice questions. So I would actually do those right then and then. Boom. Even if you get them wrong, it is okay because you guys will learn a lot more when you don't know the answers because it's gonna really push you to really research and really work on those things, okay? Whereas if you were to get an answer correctly by accident, it's gonna be like a false sense of oh man, yes, I got it, but you know, where in reality you had to go and spend a little bit more time there. Okay, so like I would practice those, and then I would just leave it alone. All right, you come Tuesday. Let's see, come Tuesday, I would first review all of the note cards that I made. Oh, and then on Monday, I forgot this step. Review the things from the last week that you struggled with, okay? Review, okay? It only takes about 15 minutes. Then I want you to read the chapter. Then I want you to do the practice questions. And also I would redo the oh, the the to check your prior knowledge. I would redo those, even if you got them wrong, even if you got them right. I would review those and I would time myself. Okay. And also, as you are reviewing your note cards, also make sure you are that you are actually talking through the correct answer. Okay, okay, not just saying it like in your brain. So actually talking through and speaking about it because okay, once you teach it, to yourself, or if you teach it to a friend or your dog or whoever you want to teach it to, if you are able to speak about it, it's actually going to stick a lot more. Okay, so okay, Tuesdays comes around. What I want you to do is review your note cards, and then I want you, if you want to start the lab, okay? I want you to go through the lab, continue to make note cards, continue to read and practice, okay? Practice, and I want you to recall, okay? And then okay, Wednesday and Thursday, I want you to do the same thing. Practice and practice and practice, okay? Because if you just read information and then you expect it to, okay, that information to like only come out, during the quizzes and exam, it's just not gonna come out. Okay. You have to practice how you play. Okay. So um, come Friday, I would take the okay lesson quiz there. Good, good, good. And then I would review for your lab quiz, okay? But only take the lab quiz once you're 1000% ready. All right, 1000% ready. And then you're gonna keep doing that. You're gonna continue that pattern, because you guys will see soon is that everything is going to layer, like like upon itself, kind of like the skin, what we're gonna cover today. And so if you have that solid foundation, everything else is just gonna come a lot easier, okay? And what I don't want you guys, you know, what I don't want you guys to get in the habit of is just cramming right before exam. Because like as a student, it was never good for me. I would be stressed out. Okay, my family would notice that I was a little bit cranky during that time because I didn't review as much as I needed to. And so, and it was just like like stress that I didn't need. Okay. So I want you guys to get in the habit of constantly reviewing the material that you struggle with. Okay. Because the stuff that you are really good at is going to stay. It might not feel like you can remember it, but it's in there. Okay, because okay, there's a reason why you are good at it. It's because it stayed at stick. So you'll be able to find the answers if it's a multiple question. If it's a multiple choice question, you guys will be able to pick it out. Okay, so you have to trust your brain. Trust your brain. Okay, and then you're gonna go from there. So those are really the tips, guys, that I would give, because like anatomy is just like a very vast field. You have to pick up as much information as you can, as fast as you can. And depending on your course load, you might have to dedicate a little bit more time to other classes. So if you're like able to, for example, review maybe 15 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, you spread it out and you test yourself on the same material, you are going to notice that you will pick up on it slowly and slowly, okay? Unless you are like a brilliant genius that just, remembers to, read, for example, let's say you read something once and it stays in your brain. That's not me. I cannot relate to that. I wish I could, but I can't. But what I can do is I can help you with really good study habits so that you're able to gather this information in your brain so that it stays for your assessments and hopefully throughout your career. And it's all about how you approach it, it's all about your habits. Okay. So, enough of that, guys. I'm going to cover the layers of the skin. Now, we are going to continue to layer on your knowledge. Okay. So, just like the skin, um, if you have a solid foundation, it's going to create room, for cells to grow and kind of live their cycle and get all the way, to the top. Okay. The top layer of our skin is our layer. or like epidermis, okay? And that is our tough layer that is going to protect like our body. We also have hairs, okay? That also protects our body and helps us okay sense things. We have nerves that like also protect us and you provide our brain information to be able to say, oh, you know what, it's a little bit chilly. I need to maybe get a jacket, or oh, I feel something warm over there. Maybe I should stay away from that fire. So our skin, it really protects us. It it actually lets in certain vitamins into our system and blocks other things. So I'm gonna cover that. That's really what is the most important thing is really the job of our skin and the cells within our skin and what job they have. Okay, if you're able to master those things, you will do wait. You are going to do well. Okay. Now, I want you to pay attention within each layer. What type of cells are okay? Okay, okay. What type of cells live in each layer? Okay, because okay, layers that are a lot deeper in our skin are there for okay, vascularization, okay, meaning we're able to get a blood supply. And now, why would we need a blood supply? Well, to grow hair, okay, to continue the maturation of cells, for the cells to live out their cycle, and then they die and they shed. Okay, so all of that stuff has to constantly regenerate, and in order to regenerate, you need blood supply. Okay, the the cells at the surface, those are almost at the end of of their cycle, and they're really tight together, and they're a lot harder, and so that's why it's a lot harder to break through. Look, I'm hitting it, and nothing's getting through because okay, those cells are a lot tighter. Okay, so I'm gonna go through a video of osmosis. Osmosis is a great tool for learning because it really breaks it down. Just like the Armando videos, okay, that I shared with you. I wish that I could give you guys access to this one, but it's a paid subscription. But oh, and I use it all the time, guys. I use it for my own learning. I use it to get ready for okay my board prep. Um, when it's time to do that. So, I hope you guys enjoy it. And exactly like last week's lecture. Like I'm gonna stop it whenever I need to cover something that is really important for you to understand for the quizzes and for your exams, and then I'll move forward. Okay, so hope you guys enjoy this and let me know if you have any questions. All right. I also have the link to a new Quizlet that is inside the lesson plan. So please okay, okay, grab those. Copy and paste all you want. Because at the end of the day, okay, these are tools for you to constantly review. Okay, I want you guys to be successful, and I want you guys to be able to keep this information in your brain so that as you continue to go through, you guys, it's just going to be a lot easier, guys. I promise. The hard work is now, so that when you get to where you want to get to, it's going to be easier to okay recall, and then you're gonna remember me, the guy who struggled to speak through the videos. You're gonna remember me. Oh, that is the okay. That's what he was telling me. You guys will see. I promise. I promise. It's all about the habits, and you guys are gonna do great. So let me get this video started, and then we're gonna get going.
Hair, skin glands, including oil and sweat glands, and nails are all considered
Oh,
skin appendages, and they
that's
help
the
with
wrong one,
regulating
guys. My
body
bad.
temperature and protection from.
I played the wrong one. I wanted to play this one. All right, here we go.
Responsible for regulating
Oh,
temperature.
I need to start over.
When The skin makes up around 16% of total body weight, making it the largest organ in the body, although it's hard to imagine it as a single organ. The skin, along with its accessory structures like oil and sweat glands, makes up the integumentary system. The integumentary
Integumentary
system
system.
protects the body from infections, helps regulate body temperature, and contains nerve receptors that detect pain, sensation, and pressure.
Hey guys, so I want you to hold on to that key is that it is the largest book system that like our body has. And it's really crazy to think that, oh, it's like it's an organ, but it is. It's really not like, like your liver or your intestines. It's 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 a living organ that spreads throughout your whole body. And so that's why it's so important. And that's why it's considered the largest organ.
Now, the skin is divided into three layers: the epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis. The epidermis forms the thin outermost layer of skin. Underneath is the thicker dermis layer that contains the nerves and blood vessels. And finally, there's the hypodermis, which is made of fat and connective tissue that anchors the skin to the underlying muscle.
Right, guys. And so if you notice here, all of this vascularization, right? All of this vascularization. And the reason why it's there, guys, it's because now we have to build new skin here in the dermis, okay? And the hypodermis, like it was talking about, we have to anchor it down. So that has to be really tough connective tissue, right? So let's remember that connective tissue is not just one, the same tissue like over and over and over like and over again. It's actually a matrix where it could have fibers, it could have look, one type of cell and another type of cell. It's like a soup or a pie, however you want to remember it, guys. It is important to remember that connective tissue is like it's a tissue that has a lot of things in it to put to fulfill its one purpose, okay?
The epidermis itself is made up of multiple layers of developing keratinocytes, which are flat, pancake shaped cells that are named for the keratin protein that they're filled with. Keratin is a fibrous protein that allows keratinocytes to protect themselves from getting destroyed when you rub your hands through the sand at the beach. Keratinocytes also make and secrete glycolipids, glyco meaning part sugar and lipid meaning part fat.
Guys, and I want you to think about like would we why would we have fat in our skin? Like why look at the layers of the skin. Why would we need that? So I want you to think about that right now. The reason is because it fat repels water. So if you take your water, you add some oil in it, it doesn't become this homogeneous thing. It actually stays separate. So it's important because if we didn't have that, it would rain and then we would become bloated because we're like absorbing all of the water and it would be really tough to to move around. So think about the jobs and the cells and the structure. Okay, guys. I'm gonna continue to harp on that, and you guys will probably get tired of me saying it, but I need it to stick.
Glycolipids help to prevent water from easily seeping into and out of the body. Keratinocytes start their life at the lowest layer of the epidermis called the stratum basale, or basal layer, which is made of a single layer of stem cells that continually divide and produce new keratinocytes. These new
All right, guys. So as you learn all of the layers, okay, I want you to really focus on like like the root words, okay? So bacille. Whenever you think about that, is that at the top or is that at the bottom? What does it okay, what other word, does it remind you of? Oh, oh, basale. It kind of sounds like base. So as you're learning through it, you are gonna connect okay, oh, you're gonna connect the word basale to to the base, where the epidermis starts. Okay, so kind of take little hints of each word to be able to kind of recall this information a little bit faster, okay? Because it'll tell you exactly where it is. You just have to be able to break it down.
Keratinocytes then migrate upwards to form the other layers of the epidermis. The stratum basale also contains another group of cells, melanocytes, which secrete a protein pigment or coloring substance called melanin. Melanin is actually a broad term that constitutes several types of melanin found in people of differing skin color. These subtypes of melanin range in color from black to reddish yellow, and their relative quantity define a person's skin color. When keratinocytes are exposed to the sun, they send a chemical signal to the melanocytes, which stimulates the melanocytes into making more melanin. The melanocytes move the melanin into small sacs called melanosomes, and these get taken up by the newly formed keratinocytes. Melanin then acts as a natural sunscreen because its protein structure dissipates or scatters UVB light, which, if left unchecked, can damage the DNA in the skin cells and lead to skin cancer. Darker types of melanin and greater quantities of this kind of melanin are produced by individuals living close to the equator because they typically get more sun exposure. However, it's a fine balance because UVB light helps us generate vitamin D, which is an important regulator of calcium absorption. Keratinocytes contain cholesterol-derived molecules that are activated by UVB into vitamin D. As keratinocytes in the stratum basale mature and lose the ability to divide, they migrate into the next layer, called the stratum spinosum, which is about 8 to 10 cell layers thick. Keratinocytes in the stratum spinosum layer have tiny proteins on the membrane that look like tiny spines. These help the cells adhere to one another. The stratum spinosum layer also has dendritic cells lurking around.
All right, guys. So I'm gonna go back to the point, okay? Spinosum, right? Spine. So, okay, think about it. You want these cells to be, since it's a layered layer, right? You want to be able to adhere these a lot better, okay? Compared to the base, which is one line, okay? That really requires a lot less. And plus, it's also connected to connective tissue, okay? So that's going to be strong and dense okay, okay, material. And then you have one layer of the base of the basale, and then you need little tiny spikes to be able to hold on to a lot of cells so that they continue to mature and eventually get to the other levels. Okay.
And these are star-shaped immune cells that are constantly patrolling, looking for invading microbes. The next layer up is the stratum granulosum, which is
Okay. So now I want you to think about, I'm going to rewind a little bit, the dendritic cells, right? If we didn't have those, what do you guys think would happen? I think we would run into a lot of like staph infections, um, just a lot of things that would like our immune system would just be an overload because we wouldn't have that protection. So if our skin, if so, okay, right now, if I don't have a cut, it's gonna be protected because now is okay, nothing's gonna get through because it's protected by the top layer of the skin. Now, what would have happened if I would have cut myself? That's when like everything really becomes a lot harder and we are more in danger. So if we didn't have these sites to continue to protect us from bacteria, then we would be in a lot of trouble. So that's the reason why those cells kind of live in in okay that area. And you guys notice that it's like around the cells that are like still little babies, right? They are continuing to mature. They don't have okay, they need spines to be able to adhere each other because they're not as strong. Okay. And we need we need cells that help them stay healthy. So we have the dendritic cells. Okay. As they move up, then they, they change in shape. But I want you to think of this area here, okay, as the area where things start to mature. Over here, like at the base, they're babies, but here they are growing, okay? And so, they
The
need
next
a
layer
little
up
bit
is
of
the
extra
stratum
protection.
granulosum, which is 3 to 5 cell layers thick. Keratinocytes in this layer begin the process of keratinization, which is where the keratinocytes flatten out and die, and in this process they create the epidermal skin barrier. To do this, keratinocytes in the stratum granulosum layer produce large amounts of keratin precursor proteins and glycolipids which remain within granules called keratohyalin granules and lamellar granules respectively. Keratohyalin granules eventually start to aggregate and cross-link, forming enormous bundles of keratin within the keratinocyte. Lamellar granules, on the other hand, get secreted and stick to the outer cell surface. It forms a sort of cement between the cells, making them more resistant to external forces and water loss. Over time, the intracellular organelles disintegrate so the cells flatten out and die. Keratinization leads to development of the stratum lucidum layer, which is 2 to 3 cell layers thick of translucent dead keratinocytes that have secreted most of their lamellar granules.
I want you to focus on what type of skin of our bodies has this stratum stratum lucidum.
The stratum lucidum is only found in thick skin, like on the palms and soles of the feet, because those are the areas that need extra protection. The stratum lucidum is absent in thin skin, which covers the rest of the body, and the other layers are thinner. Finally, there's the stratum corneum, or the uppermost and thickest layer of the epidermis, which is like a wall of 20 to 30 layers, where the glycolipid acts like the cement and the dead keratinized cells are the bricks. The dead keratinocytes in this layer secrete natural antibiotics called defensins, which poke holes in bacteria. As new keratinocytes push up into the stratum corneum, older dead cells are shed, forming skin flakes or dandruff. Now, the dermis lies below the stratum basale of the epidermis, and it's much thicker than the epidermis. The dermis is divided into 2 layers, a thin papillary layer below the stratum basale and a deeper reticular layer. The papillary layer contains fibroblasts, which produce a connective tissue protein called collagen. The fibroblasts are arranged in finger-like projections called papillae, each of which contains blood vessels and nerve endings. One type of nerve.
Guys, and if you see here, do you see how I am, running my mouse? That's what I want you to think about. Little finger-like projections. Now, okay, this is a drawing. So if when you go through, okay, your lab, you are gonna see that it really projects like little fingers, okay? And so I want you to associate pili to to little fingers, and you're gonna see that word also describe other things as well. So I want you to always think about little fingers when you read the word papillary or pele.
Ending found here is called a Meissner corpuscle. And this is a disc-shaped structure that detects fine touch, and it allows you to know exactly where, for example, a feather touches your arm. Another
So like inside the lesson, I wrote out a little mnemonic, okay? Meissner. I want you to think about the SS as surface, okay? So it's going to give you that light touch like information, okay? And then you're going to learn about like about a you're going to learn about a different structure that is a little bit deeper and that's a different okay, that's a different type of nerve that is going to help you with deep sensation. Okay, so I put that the inside the lessons for you guys to help to you grab a mnemonic. And if that is what really helps you study, is that if that really what helps you make things stick, please use it and continue to make your own. And if you guys share with me, I will use them for future classes. Okay, so please send me whatever cool ideas you guys have to remember this stuff, and I could also share with the class as well. Okay.
Type of nerve found in the papillae are called free nerve endings, which are dendrites that detect pain. The papillary layer also contains macrophages, which capture pathogens that make it past the epidermis. It's also the papillary layer that's responsible for fingerprints. These are necessary for gripping and sensing abilities of the fingers and feet, and they make each of us as unique as snowflakes. Next is the reticular layer of the dermis, which is even thicker than the papillary layer. Like the papillary layer, however, the reticular layer contains fibroblasts with scattered macrophages. But the collagen in the reticular layer is packed very tightly together, making it an excellent tissue support. In addition, fibroblasts in the reticular layer secrete elastin, which is a stretchy protein that gives skin its flexibility. The reticular layer also contains the skin's accessory structures like oil and sweat glands, hair follicles, lymphatic vessels, and nerves, and all of the blood vessels that serve these tissues.
All right, guys. So I want you to remember the reticular layer. So very important layer, okay? Because here you have nerves, okay? A lot of nerve endings that actually go like up to the papillary layer, okay? You have hair follicles, okay? You have sweat glands that also live in that area, and you have fibroblasts, okay? Build the macrophages. Sorry, it's the cells that okay that builds and also creates a really solid structure with collagen that is tightly packed. Okay, so very important layer with a lot of information. So please take the time to kind of parse all of these things out, so that you guys are able to differentiate in in the quiz. Okay, but very important layer with a lot of structures.
One type of nerve ending found here is called a Pacinian corpuscle, and this is an onion-shaped structure that detects pressure or vibration, and it allows you to feel when someone's grabbing your arm.
All right, guys. So we have the Pacinian corpuscle. Okay, so back in the lesson, I also like I made another mnemonic, which is Pacinian and pressure. Okay, so it's a little bit further deep. So if you press really tight, that's when you'll be able to use your Pacinian corpuscles to be able to gather that information. Okay, so deep pressure, deep pressure. Remember that P for deep pressure, deep pressure.
Since the reticular layer contains lots of blood vessels and sweat glands, it's also largely responsible for regulating temperature. When body temperature rises, like during a workout, the nervous system makes these blood vessels dilate and makes the sweat glands secrete sweat. Dilation of blood vessels brings more blood closer to the skin surface, and that allows heat to get lost to the outside environment. As sweat coats the skin surface, it takes heat to evaporate, so heat is slowly lost from the skin surface with every drop of sweat that evaporates away. In the opposite situation, when it's cold outside, blood vessels constrict, and that diverts blood flow away from the skin and there's no sweat, so body heat is conserved.
Yeah. So everything constricts, right? It it actually does this so that your major organs are like able to stay a lot warm, okay? It constricts, it keeps the blood inside your organs so that they continue to function, okay? So in an individual that is going through hypothermia, you notice that, you know, okay, their uh, fingers become blue, they become necrotic because there's no blood there's no blood supply, there's nothing to protect and keep everything warm because all of the blood is brought on like onto your core to protect itself because without the heart you can't survive, without your lungs can't survive, without your intestines you can't survive. So your body says, oh, I need to constrict all of the blood supplies right into my core so that I can keep myself warm. Our body is amazing, guys. It is amazing what is capable of doing, without, without like us even telling it what to do.
Finally, there's the layer just below the dermis called the hypodermis or subcutaneous tissue. This layer contains fat cells called adipocytes, which help store most of the fat in our body, but also contains fibroblasts, macrophages, blood vessels, nerves, and lymphatics. The hypodermis helps insulate deeper tissues, provides padding to the body, and anchors the skin to the muscle with connective tissue proteins like collagen. Alright, as a quick recap. The skin, or the integumentary system, is the largest organ of the body that has many important functions in physiology. The integumentary system is divided into three major components, including the epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis. The epidermis is the most superficial layer, and it's responsible for protection from pathogens and the environment, for vitamin D production, and for giving the skin its color. The dermis lies below the epidermis and controls temperature regulation and helps with sensation. The hypodermis lies below the dermis and provides a point of attachment for the skin to the deeper muscles.
All right, guys. So one final thing. Okay, the hypodermis. I always think of a hippo. The hippos, they carry a little bit more fat. And they also, like in my brain, they also like to swim really deep into the water. So um, just use little tiny things like that so that you're able to recall this information a little bit more faster. And then eventually, um, you won't have to use them. Or you could be like me, and every time I use them in clinic, I'm like, oh gosh, I can't believe that stuck because of the mnemonic that I created. So when you're thinking about the the hippodermis, you're thinking about a hippo, a little bit more fat, and they like to go really deep in the water. All right, guys. Like outside of that, please study, 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 review, 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 time, 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 and time yourself. Enjoy the week, enjoy the weekend, go do something fun, and we'll see you guys next week. Okay. Please message me in in okay in outside the message center, and then we'll see you guys next week.